So many of us are seeking a deeper understanding of the physical and unseen world around us, while trying to connect and understand ourselves. Seeking enlightenment, understanding of the paranormal, holistic options, whole body healing, the metaphysical, and finding a personal connection to a higher consciousness. Together, we will journey and seek understanding of our own soul's fulfillment and that which lies beyond the veil. If you found yourself here, trust this is the next step in your spiritual journey. Welcome to Soul Flight.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Soul Flight. It's been a while. We have been on a little bit of a break over the summer. And hi, Rez. Thank you for tuning in, my friend. And it's just been hectic. It's been busy. We've had a lot going on, but I hope everybody has had a good summer and that you're ready to kind of get back in the swing of things with Soul Flight and come here for education, to meet guests, to learn about different modalities, and really just open our minds to different conversations. Before I tell you about today's guest, I wanted to start with a card like I normally do, a postcard from Spirit. And this one is entitled Take Flight. Dear you, there is always more than one side to an argument, two sides, if not more, to every story and hundreds of ways to be right, be different, be at odds, and so on. Today, we suggest that instead of looking for differences, you find a meeting place of agreement and approach this experience with understanding and compassion. Seek common ground to understand how another person thinks or how an alternate plan might be laid. Stay out of judgment too. Observe, discern, but accept that others have different stories, experiences, and journeys, and some people might refuse to remain open to another's point of view. No matter what you've been presented with, a great opportunity to explore a new way of doing things once common ground is reached. You're attracting people and situations that enrich your life and bring you wonderful things to learn. We love you so much. That is a great message, and I hope it has reached its intended person and that we do realize there are so many different perspectives, point of views, ways to look at things, and really, that's why we're here. That's why I do Soul Flight, so I can bring you different perspectives. So today's guest, I'm really excited to have her here. Her name is Turck, and she is a Soul Advancement Shaman. And she's also the author of Got Spiritual Troubles? Yeah, tell me about it. And I would like you to help me welcome her to the show. Hi, Cindy.
Hello, Stephanie. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
I am so excited to have you here. And we have so much, we are kind of chatting behind the scenes and so much really to talk to and get out to the people. But before we get all of that, could you give everybody a little bit of background on you and how you kind of stepped into this role?
Yeah. So, like most people, you don't really plan on this. I knew since I was 5 years old, I was going to do something significant with life, but I had no idea it would turn out to be what I'm doing here. So, in 2009, I surrendered to, God or whatever you want to call it, because I was unhappy with life. So, and I'm like, God, all I want is someone to love, to be loved in return, and be able to take care of my kids financially. I'm not asking for much. But
Right.
after that, wow, like all the wheels started turning. So I started channeling poems out of the blue. I started
Wow.
having all these visions, and then at my work, I started fainting. It felt like my soul was pulling out of my body,
Well, that's crazy.
and it was crazy. And then as time went on, I was developing skills as a trance medium, so spirits are jumping
Right.
in and out of my body. And I worked for a larger eye office at the time that was
Okay.
connected to a bigger network of medical, um,
Right.
you know, all the different testing you could do. So I went through and I saw all kinds of tests, had all kinds of tests with different doctors, neuropsych, psychological, the
Right.
ink blots and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, because they were trying to figure out what was going on with me. And then, but it was kind of cool because the poems were kind of giving me clues. So, and I was like, I was passing, like kind of falling around at work, and I was getting these huge energy surges through my body into
Right.
the different chakra points. So, eventually, as time went on, I had a physician's assistant say, you're going to have to do self-research because the medical community is not going to understand what you're going to do, because they kind of understood some Eastern things. And they're like, kind of sounds like you had a Kundalini awakening with all these different things, happening. So,
That's amazing
um,
that you had a physician that recognized that though, because so many
yeah.
times that's not even part of their consideration.
Well, and it's a closet recommendation. It was, as far as
Right?
I'm
Right.
concerned. Yeah, but then I finally found a counselor too, and they were kind of understanding, that I was having some things. But what's really cool, what my main focus is like, because the start in 2009, now that I've done all this, I've done over a decade of research and things. Um, I'm a spiritual educator. That's my big goal that I want to be. And then like I do dense energy removals. So what I do, it's a little different than Reiki. I
Okay.
studied some Reiki, but I also work with Meridian Energetics out of Canada. So
Nice.
I can tap into a person's energy field. And like I start off at the root chakra and then I'll work my way up, and I work with a
Okay.
12 chakra system. But yeah, like I exfoliate the soul, as I call it. So I
And
will
so what would you
hook.
consider like deep energy? What or the dense energy? What does that usually constitute?
So I have, like educational material, like I show, like a figure with the different chakra points.
Okay.
So say somebody, has, anytime you have a fear-based thought or a trauma-based thought or something like that,
Right.
if we know the chakras, they're associated with different thought patterns. So say someone doesn't vocalize their truth, they don't say what they need to say and all that. Well, every time it's like you get a little dense, like X of energy, heavy
Okay.
energy, because you're not being true to your authentic self. But if you think about that, and I believe we live, parallel lifetimes or multiple lifetimes, and
Right.
just belief systems and programming that we've had,
Yeah.
every time you don't speak your truth, you're getting more like little dense energy, like in that zone. Or
Almost like
if,
scar tissue.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you just get like loaded in all these different chakra points, like if you have self-esteem issues, of course, solar plexus, you're going to get, loaded. But people are getting so bogged down with all this stuff. They
Right.
can't, that's when that lowers their vibration. If you want to, I had an
Okay.
image of the, I got, because I used to have, visions that came to me and things. I had a vision of a spiral staircase and a strand of DNA. So if you think about it, we are
Okay.
walking up the stairway to heaven. Every decision we make either moves us up vibrationally or down the stairway to heaven. So people are getting so bogged down and recycling these tainted thoughts. So it's lowering their vibration. They're bogged down so that they're going to be more loaded with, depression, anxiety, fear, jealousy, and all that stuff. So when I do a dense energy removal, the goal is to like exfoliate the soul, like extract. What I do is I hook up to
Right.
the different chakra points. I draw it off after source helps me dictate what I draw off.
Okay.
And I make crazy noises and I cry, but I have done the work to process it so I don't emotionally
That
take
makes
it on.
sense. Right.
Yeah, and then it just, I'll like kind of vacuum off what I can. Then it transmutes up through my heart chakra and then kind of neutralizes, and then I dry heave out the residue. And one of the cool things that I've been
Wow.
able to develop is it's intense. Like people are
It
like, "Are
sounds
you
very intense.
okay?" But
It sounds really like you're I always say as a medium or as a psychic, we are that copper wire, but you are like literally recycling it through your body.
mhm. Yeah, and one of the cool things is because I can, release it and like, transmute it so that it's dealt with, so to speak. But I can do downloads into the various chakra points to give new energetic templating to help boost people's vibrations again up on that, stairway to heaven, so to speak.
Okay, right.
One and there's so much to it, and
Oh
I
yeah,
have my
it's never
go ahead.
simple, and I think when people hear us, talking about things, it's very really a complex process.
It is. And in my book, Got Spiritual Troubles, yeah, tell me about it. I tell my whole journey. It all started, like I said, with concerns, with my marriage and everything, and just
Right.
being unhappy financially and all these different things. But the cool thing is, like in my book, I tell my whole story and I educate. So I'm going to tell people how my skills how they escalated throughout the years, or how they, shifted with different things. The cool thing is the spirit of Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, his
Okay.
spirit connected with me on a couple, occasions, and helped me
Oh, that's
understand I was going
awesome.
through the, yeah, it was not going through it. It was crazy, but yeah, he helped me understand I was going through the process of individuation. So you're working through the psyche. You have to, we all have a mask or persona that we put on. So you have to strip that off, and then deal with the ego and the shadow components of your
Right.
psyche. And I had visions and stuff of like a Darth Vader-y thing come to me, because I, was getting visions at that time and
Okay.
things. But a key component is the anima or animus, balancing like the masculine and feminine aspect of self. So
Okay.
when you can balance that aspect, it can help you catapult then to, connecting with your true inner God connection. It's like we're all bogged down with this heavy energy. Once you can like shed all that, then you can allow that kundalini or that divine energy to flow through your system. And if you, are familiar with kundalini energy, it looks like spiral snake energy, kind of when you look at an
Okay.
ambulance or a
I'm not
medical.
familiar, so I find that very interesting.
Okay. But yeah, if you look at like, an ambulance, when you're behind one someday, you'll
Right.
notice that it has the staff and then the snake going through.
Yes.
Well, the whole point of this story, is like our thoughts dictate our reality and our
Right.
energy flow and our connection to source. So, it got to a point where, um, I tapped into twin flame consciousness without trying to. I didn't know what twin flame consciousness was
Right.
or anything like that, but you can get to a point where if you clear enough of your energy, you can tap into a connection with another person who's like a catalyst for you in the fifth dimension. So you can raise your
Okay.
vibration enough that you can, tap into this, and, you can have, it's like you can feel them. I'm very clairsentient.
Right.
So
Right.
I can feel these, this connection, with, different people. I've had actual like a twin flame connection with various people. As my vibration shifts, I can connect with different people. But it's what it
Okay.
is because I balance the masculine and feminine aspect of self more so.
Right.
Um, you can tap into this and you can receive the love that you need from within and not need to
Right.
look on the outside as much. So,
And when people are looking to balance, that we talk about like that masculine energy and that feminine energy, do you find, because in my experience, I've really found that those energies tend to fight each other. And sometimes I think it's because of societal constraints that those kind of tend to butt heads. Do you think it is more ego that keeps those from balancing, or what do you find the struggle really is when people are trying to balance that?
I think it's belief systems. We're
Well, that
ingrained with
makes
different
sense.
belief systems just from the get-go.
Right.
The women are supposed to be in the kitchen, and,
Sure.
vacuuming, and they're the nurturing one, and, boys can't
Sure.
cry, and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think we're programmed from an early age, girls have to wear pink, boys play trucks, just
Right.
various different things. And what was a super interesting thing within my life is my mom passed away when I was 2. I was raised
Okay.
by my dad and 5 brothers. So, and
Wow.
on a farm. So I had a
Right.
ton of masculine energy around me, but I have the ingrained feminine aspect within me because I am a female. And I
Right.
think that was a key thing to help me balance, that stuff that was within me, or those
Yeah,
energies.
absolutely.
Like I was out milking cows. If they had to work on a
Right.
roof, I would go up on the roof, or whatever. Like
Yes.
and
Right.
my dad had to cook. Like, we had no one else. Like, and we learned how to work with, each other, and we needed each other to survive. So there was not as many masculine or feminine dominated roles in my
Right.
household growing up.
It
And I
wasn't as
want to say
predefined.
too, yeah, and I didn't have as many like programmed belief systems within me, either because um and I don't want to knock church or anything like that, but we didn't,
Right.
go to church every Sunday, so I wasn't I believe in God and I believe in Jesus and everything. And I
Correct.
explained
Yeah.
how I've had some different visions with Jesus that in the book too, and that, but it's all when you understand, what Jesus was standing for too is for love and, unconditional love for yourself and for others. And that's
Right.
the whole point. When you can get rid of this heavy energy that's bogging people down, it's again going to help you ascend and raise your vibration to these higher levels. And then you're going to understand your shift of consciousness will allow you to understand how we can connect with oneness. Because when you heal
Right.
your traumas, then you understand that if somebody is acting out towards you because they're having a bad day or whatever, um, it's because they have something that's bothering them or triggering them. So you don't take it
Right.
personally because you understand
No.
that they still have some inner healing to do. And there's so much to it, but and the twin flame stuff, it's really interesting because when I surrendered to God, I said, I wanted someone to love and be loved in return. Well, I meant for
Right.
that to be my husband at the time, but the
Right.
channeled poem revealed someone else to me that was my person. And I don't want to get too involved or risky with that, but like I was having these energy surges, and I'll just say, they were very loving energy surges. So you can actually
Right.
have, you know, I,
Like
like,
spiritual contact. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, but you can experience divine love from within. I'm going to put it that way. So,
Right.
you get like my heart chakra blew open. When my heart chakra blew open, I have poems. I can tell you based on like the poems that I had when my third eye opened. I didn't even know what a third eye was at that time, but
Wow.
I had written about it.
Right.
And in my book, each chapter starts with a significant poem that was channeled,
Oh,
revolving around
interesting. Your
revolving around
experiences.
what happened to me. So, but it's cool because I didn't find out till later that Carl Jung, again based his theory on individuation. I didn't find out he didn't until like 4 years later after I was researching Kundalini energy and chakras and all that. He actually based his theory of individuation off Kundalini yoga. And when
Interesting.
you
And
read,
and how you had
yeah,
all that in there already. That is very interesting.
and I feel like in the book I've done a pretty good job in my opinion trying to
Right.
translate this, but like I really did have a dead person help me figure out what was going on with me psychologically. And there was adaptation periods, of course, and
Right.
we're all in a healing zone, and right now there's a huge, as there's a huge shift
There
going.
there
And
is.
that's why us light workers are coming forward. What
Right.
we're doing is, we want to share our stories, we want to share our knowledge, and get people, yeah, to heal those traumas within them. I always say a couple things, that the only way to truly heal is to feel.
Yes.
And another thing is anything that triggers you, there's a root to that, and you have to figure out what, get to the bottom of that. So anything that triggers you is
Yeah.
something that's being revealed that needs to be healed within you.
Yeah, that is
So,
huge. And hi, Michelle.
mhm.
Hi, Ellie. Thank you for tuning in. I agree with that. And and I tell people too, just we have this tendency to think because we're vulnerable or we're being triggered by something that makes us weak. But it really takes a lot of courage and fortitude to sit in that space and try to heal that and recognize that and process through that. And I think that's a big thing that we kind of have upside down in society. We tend to shy away from the things that make us feel vulnerable, and really we don't realize how much courage it takes to process through that. When you have, clients coming to you, and I think so many people can really relate to that feeling of loneliness like you were talking to, and looking for connections with people, whether living past that divine love that you're talking about. What do you recommend for people that are seeking to find some of that understanding and reciprocation of their love that they give to others?
I mean, bottom line, it starts with self-love. I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't love yourself, you're not going to be able to love another, or you're going to project your insecurities onto someone else. And
Right. Right.
that's what's happening so much in the world right now is, you know, if you think about it, we've been taught by people that did the best that they can, but they too were suffering from traumas,
Yes.
that they weren't aware of. They were taught by traumas, generation, going
Absolutely.
back. And, it comes down to, um, you know, like if you're having a bad day, it's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. Like,
Right.
everybody has insecurities. Everybody has things that they don't like about themselves necessarily, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
it comes down to, again, acceptance.
Right.
Or, and if you don't like something, you know what? We have the ability to do something about it. If you don't like your job or whatever, you can get a different job. And yeah, if you need to put boundaries up, if someone, isn't treating you well or whatever, or there's so many different ways that you can learn to love yourself. I'm a
Right.
big fan too of, if you like to paint, go paint. If you like to,
Right.
I'm
What
a big
resonate?
concert goer, so I'm like, go to
Right.
concerts.
Yeah, music. And
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
that's a great point is what resonates. We have to find so many times, and I know when I first got into this field and you meet people and they say, well, this is the right way to do things, or this is the only way to do things. But there's so many different avenues that get us all to the same spot or where we need to be. So it's okay to sit down and say, what resonates with me? What makes sense for me right now in this moment?
And another thing is, though, as you shift your vibration, things that you resonate with may shift as well. So,
Absolutely.
like if you might have a tarot card, big, kick for a
Right.
while, or, like resonate with certain crystals or whatever, like I went through different phases, with different things. And, you get out of it what you're supposed to, and then you can move
Right.
on. And, you know, it's just a matter like of experimenting. Um, I did not have a guidebook. Who does, right? I mean, you
Right.
just do the
Yeah,
best
wouldn't
you
that be
can. And
helpful? Like, here,
yeah,
oh, this is where this is going. Great. Yeah.
well, and yeah, and one thing, so like I said, I have trances, sometimes I trance out, I get these big energy flows through my body
Wow.
for like literally sometimes it can last for 2 hours. Like I'm actually on disability because these energy flows, and I have tons of witnesses like that this
Right.
stuff happens to me. Especially, I always say I pay attention to the Schumann resonance and the
Okay.
sun's electromagnetic thing, because that affects me big time. I kind of
Okay.
feel like, from what I've understood, is that I am kind of an anchor. I'm like, I get these big downloads that are pretty hardcore to help anchor them in for
Okay.
others, so that others
Right.
can withstand them a little bit more easily. And the beauty is, like I said, everything has been documented. I saw all the doctors, they couldn't find anything wrong. I've had
Okay.
MRIs, EKGs, and all that. And
So
when
do
you start,
you know, like, do you sense when you're getting one of these downloads or it just happens?
I do, yeah, I can feel like I get a little bit of a warning. So, like, if I'm driving or cooking, I need to
Right.
shut the oven off,
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering,
or
like,
pull over.
how
Yeah.
is spirit kinda working with you if that's how they're gonna use you? What kind
Mhm.
of, tools have they given you so that you don't burn your house down because 'cause you're cooking and they decide to download a huge file?
Yeah. So I get a pulling sensation on my heart chakra. My heart chakra, like I said, I had a heart center awakening. It
Right.
kind of, blew open, and that's when, all this stuff started. And yeah, that's kind of like my little warning thing. I had to be careful too for a while because I worked in an eye office. I didn't work in the public for many years. I just
Right.
kind of cleaned on the side. But I tried working because my friends that I used to work with were like, we need someone, an optician that knows what they're
Yeah.
doing, and I'm
Right.
super like qualified and like, was pretty good at it. I was, at the time when I was before all the spiritual stuff started and I had to step away.
Okay.
But yeah, there would be patients that would come in, and I wasn't supposed to even interact with patients, but I was supposed
Right.
to stay in the back and work with the glasses. But then we had two pregnant ladies at the same time, and we were already
Oh, wow.
short staffed, and I'm trained. So like I would go out and just help with quick things. But I noticed the people that I'd help, I ended up I was extracting some of their energy from them. I would get
Sure.
it, I would get the flow. And that was in the beginning before they were super intense, but I would go in the back and extract it out real quick, give them their glasses back and go in the
Wow.
back and dry heave. And
Right.
it
Well,
got to
how
be too much after a while.
exhausting
I'm like, I
too.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, my body's adapted pretty well over the years. Like, I can get a little tired, but it's not as bad. I have to be careful. I had to work on things because, when I'm extracting and like releasing some of this,
Right.
your bladder can leak. Like, I don't mean to be weird and say
Right.
that, but
No, but
like they're
yeah, you have
intense. Like,
body
this is intense.
responses. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
I think we don't realize, and I like it because it puts a very human element to the spiritual things that happen to us. So I appreciate you sharing that because I think it's important for people to realize that. I do want to take
Mhm.
a quick break, and when we come back, I hope some people hop on, ask you some questions, and continue our conversation.
Okay.
All right, we'll be back in just a minute.
Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, spirits, and the metaphysical? How about Mothman, Bigfoot, and other cryptids? What about UFOs, UAPs, and other anomalous phenomenon? Then you need to check out Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. We have all that and more. Watch our series, Caps Road Trip, where we travel across the U.S. in search of these phenomenon and bring you not only the history of these locations, events, and encounters, but evidence that we capture along the way. Alongside our team of researchers and investigators, you never know who will be joining in on the investigations. Are you interested in Bigfoot in Upper Michigan? Check out Finding Heighton, a series documenting the Sasquatch activity on a very special 80-acre property just outside of Menominee that has been a hotspot since 2012. Are you looking for something to listen to on your morning commute, road trip, or just hanging out? Head on over to our YouTube and check out one of our several podcasts hosted by members of the CAPS team. Topics and shows spanning everything from paranormal, UFOs, metaphysical, cryptids, and more. And if you're into spooky, check out our mini-series, Spirits of Menominee, which documents the paranormal activity of downtown Menominee, Michigan, or Spirits of Macville, where we investigate one very active location. Head on over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button, and you won't miss a minute.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Soulflight. If you are just joining us, please hop on and listen to the beginning of the podcast. We have amazing guest Cindy Turck here. She is the Soul Advancement Shaman and author. I have shared in the comments your webpage and your book. So if anybody's interested, please check out those links and check Cindy out. So Cindy, we were talking about, that very human aspect of when we're working with spirit, because we are a soul in a body. And so,
Mhm.
I know for me, when I first really worked as a medium, I would get so tired. I would get so drained, after doing readings. And like you said, your body adjusts and we kind of get used to how spirit is using us. What was the hardest adjustment for you? Because I know you mentioned you're a trans medium also. And so, and for me, that spirit keeps telling me like, hey, you need to educate on this. I'm like, oh, I'm not ready for that. But that's also another, that surrender that is such a big part of working for spirit. Did you find, being a trans medium and having those spirits coming in and out of your body took more getting used to, or do you think the downloads, what do you think was the hardest adjustment for you?
Honestly, it's just people thinking you're nuts. I'm going to go
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
in a different thing because
No,
I
that's
knew
okay.
very on that I was going to have an audience because I kind of fell over like at a counselor's office once and the
Right.
energy flow started. And so she's like, we're going to have to call an ambulance. And I
Yeah.
heard like a little, I'm not super clear, audience, but I'm once in a while, and it said letter. You need this stuff all documented. You need proof,
Right.
that you're going through this and that you're legit. So, the skepticism at first, when you know that you're not a whack job, like,
Right. No,
you know,
I get that.
yeah,
I appreciate
yeah.
that because it's so true.
Uh-huh. And my dad was, I think, very instrumental with my mentality, because my dad, when my mom died, um, he did not shave or get a haircut for 30 years. I'm not even joking. He's like,
Wow.
I don't have anyone to impress anymore, so I don't care what I look like. If you don't like it, too bad, so sad, right?
Right.
And so my dad was always like, the neighbors need someone to talk about. It might as well be us, whatever, who cares,
Right.
And so
Right.
I just knew, like, be myself. My dad, always preached, he's like, know you're great. Just don't act like you're the greatest person in the world or in
I
the
love
room or
that.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so I knew, after I knew that I was, kind of on this significant, path that I had to do and kind of bring the medical community along for the ride. Um, I'm not tapping into the twin flame stuff too much, but there's some cray cray with that big time.
Right.
But the book kind of covers that. But again, it's all just owning who you are, tapping into, your authentic self. And so what if people don't like it? Again, as you raise your vibration, people
Right.
might, as you start ascending on that stairway to heaven, people might fall away from you, but then they're not meant to be in your life. And that's like an adjustment too, is knowing that you don't take life personally when,
Yeah.
when you have to keep moving and keep,
Right.
pursuing your path. um you kind of got to be one track minded,
Yes.
not one track, but I have kids, I got to make sure,
Right. No, I know
obviously.
what you're saying, but you have
Yeah.
to look at where you're going and your
Hmm.
reasoning for going there. I understand that. And I know
Yeah.
for me, like you say, as we advance and we change levels and we shift, we do lose people just because we're at different growths, or we're going one way, they're going another way. And for me, there was a lot of grief in that as I got to certain levels and having to let go of friendships and let go of people. Did you
Mhm.
experience that as you shifted through your growth with spirit?
So, because again, I channeled poems, there was a
Yeah.
poem that said basically, and when I say I channeled poems, you can tell they're different. They're not like normal poems. They're like, because I never wrote before, and the way they kind of came out was just interesting. But there was one that addressed that said, you're gonna lose some people right now, but they're gonna be back after you basically prove that you're not a whack job. And
Love
so
it.
I'm very fortunate that I was able to, maintain solid friendships, and
Right.
even when because people knew me beforehand, I was always level headed. I wasn't,
Yes.
like, we all knew something was going on, but we didn't know what it was. But yeah, sure, people talked, and I would have
Yeah.
talked probably too. I'd been like, what is going on, but
Yeah. What is this?
you
Right.
do. Yeah, because when, earlier, like you asked, was that the trances that were harder, or like the spirits jumping in. It was all a mess. Like, there was a few years
Right.
there that I honestly, and I'll be honest, you almost get suicidal. You're getting
Mhm.
challenged by the shadow aspect of yourself so bad, but you're being cleansed, but you don't realize it when you're
Right.
going through it.
Yeah.
And you have to face those aspects of yourself that you don't like. You have to. That's the only way to push forward.
Yeah.
But and again, I have to thank my dad for being such a solid, figure in my life.
Yeah.
Because he told me this significant story. He said there was this one night I was having such, I wanted to get out and do something, and I couldn't get a hold of anyone. No one was around, and I was so
Yeah.
down and lonely. And he's like, just think if I would have ended my life that day.
Right.
It would have been horrible, because the next day he said everybody was stopping, calling, like, hey, whatever.
Yeah.
So you realize everything is temporary.
Yes.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about, like, you
I
can
am
get through
too.
this
Yeah.
stuff. And it's, I do get emotional, because this stuff, it's again just learning to appreciate who you are, love who you are, and, reconnect with that divine. I think, the world is pretty messed up because people are not loving themselves. But when you can
Right.
love yourself to the, fullest is when you tap into that inner God connection and can
Absolutely.
elevate your awareness and your consciousness. And yeah, it just, there's so much to it. And, I wish I could just, it's
There
not as
is.
simple as just like one little, magic,
Right. Cut and dry.
tool to make
Right.
thing yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
But I do like, because I think that when you look at just society as a whole, we don't support each other like we should. We don't uplift
mhm,
each other. But then when you have these extra things going on, that can make you feel, like you said, you feel crazy. It's even more isolating. And so I appreciate when we can have these very raw and open conversations, because maybe that's getting to somebody else who's feeling that way, and realizing, hey, there's support out there, there's people who understand what I'm going through, and give them that understanding of, I can keep going, just don't quit, and keep
mhm,
going, and reach out, and keep processing. I do want to kind of shift a little bit though and talk about your business, the Soul
mhm.
Advancement Shaman. What is that? What is it? I think people look at the word shaman and they're like, well, they don't understand. So as a
Yeah.
shaman,
Mhm.
what does that mean to you?
So, yeah, because, I've been told, well, you don't look like a shaman,
What
and,
what are you supposed to look like when you're a shaman?
yeah,
I always
I
laugh.
mean,
I'm like, should I have a
yeah.
staff? Should I have a funny hat? What do they want?
Beating I don't know, like the drum all day, like I don't know. But
Right.
to me,
Yeah.
when I was given in a channeled poem that said, you're a soul advancement shaman. In the future, that's going to be more common. So like I'm just kind of moving forward. To me, a shaman is somebody that can interact with the spiritual realm and the physical realm, and connect the two, and with
Yeah.
the knowledge that you learn between those two realms, you can help. Again, I'm a soul advancement. My goal is to help people advance on their soulful journeys. And
Right.
I can do that by being an energy worker. And that's where the shaman part is, that I connect with source, which is, that other
Yeah.
higher realm.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I can tap into that energy field and extract it, and then, release it for that person. And so, yeah, to me, a shaman in that respect is just somebody that can, walk between both worlds pretty easily.
Right.
So I, I used to get visions of, animals in the beginning. So I got
Right.
a significant one was a polar bear. If you think about
Oh,
it,
wow.
a a polar bear is pretty, badass. They can, survive in
Right.
freezing temperatures, but they can go from the water into like the freezing cold land with no problem. So that what does in the spiritual world, water represents emotions, right? And then
Right. Right.
the physical, is, the land, so to speak. So like,
Right.
you can easily,
Well, that's a great
work between
correlation.
the two and blend to them. So, and
Yeah.
that's again where animal medicine was very key in the beginning of my journey. And that physician's assistant that I said that recommended I do self
Right.
research, he's the one that kind of told me about shamanism. I had never heard about it. And he's like, well,
Wow.
that you
I just
use,
love that.
yeah,
I really
uh-huh.
do, because I'm just amazed. And, in all my conversations with doctors and stuff, to hear somebody was like, hey, maybe look at this other side, to me is a big, it
Mhm.
just makes me feel like there's hope out there.
I was divinely supported. I knew that from the get-go though. Like,
Yeah.
so once and I'm a big one, even to this day. I'm like, okay, source, if you want this or whatever, you got to make it happen. Like,
Right.
because,
Right.
I don't, if I don't know how to do something, when you can elevate your level of awareness and your vibration enough, instead of just reacting to the world, outside world, you can become one with source, and you can become a co-creator of your reality. And
Yes.
that's when I'm a huge fan of Joe Dispenza. Like I just ran into his stuff like a year ago. But when you read his stuff, you can tap in beyond space time and all that. Like it gets really nuts.
Right.
And you can have brain and heart coherence. But again, I had a vision of a spiral staircase, a strand of DNA. So once you can, elevate your level of awareness, and raise your vibration and connect with
Right.
those higher realms of consciousness, like I literally can get in brain and heart coherence. My whole brain,
Right.
instead of just a little heart here, buzzing or whatever, your whole brain can be active with your
Right.
heart. And that's when you can start rewiring your brain, as Joe Dispenza would say, and you can start firing different synapses and, whatever.
Right.
He knows like he's super good
Yeah.
with that stuff,
He's got the vernacular. And
but
if
you
anybody
can
has
rewire yourself, your brain,
yeah,
and change your
absolutely.
thought patterns, hmm
If
and
anyone
change
has
your
any
life.
questions, please pop them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Well, and I was just reading somewhere, and this kind of goes into what you're talking about how, on this realm, we really self-limit, like, our lifespan, our quality of life, because it's, oh, if you're thinking like you're going to get an illness and you get the illness, and well, I'm not going to live past 100, and so like those little things that kind of keep us in boxes have kind of been ingrained in our heads. And it really talked to the point of where you're talking of opening our minds completely, and really looking that we are the ones creating these boxes that are limiting
Yes.
our lifespans, our health. It was very fascinating.
I do. Honestly believe, that our thoughts dictate our reality. So, like, but
Yes.
I do believe that there's um people, though. For instance, like my mom died at 39, and her dad always said, which is weird that he said this. Like, I didn't know my grandpa or whatever, but he said that my mom
Okay.
would die before she saw 40. And at her
Wow.
funeral, that was commented. So I do feel like there's different roles. People
Right.
do come in with certain things, and people do know that intuitive information. And he did vocalize it. So I do think we do come in with a certain agenda sometimes, and we have a life planned out. But
Right.
again, when I look at how this all unfolded, for me to tap into my abilities, I had to be raised by all men, and so
Right.
it was kind of designed that way, in a weird sort of messed up way, but again, it comes to acceptance, for different things. But we we do limit ourselves, like, and
We do.
once you start tapping into some of these different skills, like, things were just unfolding so fast for me, and I had, you have no idea what's going
Right.
on.
Right. Yeah,
And
you're just
you know
going through it and trying to, it's waves.
yeah.
Trying to go with the flow with spirit sometime is not as easy as it sounds.
So my mentor for the twin flame consciousness, and someday I'd love to get into that, but that's a whole nother ball game. So, but
Yeah.
I ended up, when finding a gentleman, Mel Brand was his name, and he ended up being my mentor for Meridian Energetics. He passed away a few years back, but he always said the evolutionary process waits for no one. So our soul is on an evolutionary
Interesting.
process right now, and the more you resist, the harder it's going to be. So
Oh, I
if
agree
you
with
keep
that.
fighting it, it's going to make
Yeah.
it so much harder. So you just said what started this. What the catalyst was is I surrendered. I said, God, I can't.
Right.
I'm not a dumb person. I'm not,
Right.
like, I don't understand. There's got to be more to life than this. I'm not supposed to be miserable. And that's what me
Right.
questioning, like, my existence, like, why was I suffering so much? But then you start unpacking and realizing it's all those, dormant, or, some of them aren't even dormant, like, belief systems that we have that are,
Right.
stunting our growth. And because we hang on to them, it prevents us from moving forward. So, it all again comes to self-love, and
It does.
reflecting on your triggers and all that stuff, so that you can work past them. And then, because you have that self-love, you don't even care anymore. You're like, oh, I can be free to be who I am, and then you
Right.
can explore those different avenues,
Yes, the
and you
more
can.
authentic we become in ourselves, it opens up so many different doors, and then that's where so much more of our growth comes in, because we're willing to walk
Yes.
through the doors that resonate with us.
Yeah. And that's like when people come in, I am in transition right now. I'm giving up my physical space. I'm in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, but I'm giving up my physical space here, and I'm going to do more online sessions, is, my goal here.
Okay.
But I can still, extract the energy and all that. But if we can pull off some of that heaviness that people are holding on to, it's going to help you again raise your vibration. And then I always say we have the little devil, little angel. We're going to start listening to
Right.
the little angel more. So we're going to start ascending, and we can make proper, not, I don't want to say proper, but choices that are more beneficial for our well-being. And, that's what my goal is to help people, be aware of their thoughts, and just start being more conscious, being more in the moment and not, the saying
Right.
that
Yeah.
got
Be
me through
present.
a lot of, yep, the saying that got me through so much stuff was and I'm sure you've heard this, if you're depressed, you're thinking about the past. If you're full of anxiety, you're worried about the future. So you have to
Right.
just like rein it back in. Whenever I was starting to freak out, I'm like, nope, nope, rein it back in. Focus on what you need to focus on right now.
Yes.
And, then you can move forward. Another thing for people, meditation. I mean, just sit quietly, and
Right.
that's, every morning, that's what I do is I just chill and, I talk to
Yeah.
source and just,
Right. And
or just sit
meditation
there
doesn't
and
have
whatever.
to be this big thing that I think a lot of people think it has to be. Meditation can be
Mhm.
very simple. I do want to
Yeah,
I see Michelle popped in a question, and I do want to get to it before we have to go because we only have a few minutes, but she asked, "How do you
sure.
get past your patterns that hold us back?"
Well, the first step I think is recognizing them. If
Right.
you can recognize them, then you can start assessing them, But
Yes.
if you're always in denial and think that like I'm perfect, I don't have any, issues, well, you're
Right.
never going to grow. But you just you have to if something brings you sadness or triggers you, you analyze it, sit with it,
Right.
kind of, ponder what is causing this, um and just there was a inner child exercise that Mel had me do when I was learning how to do all this stuff. And, basically, like, this was a very wonderful tool. He had me go back through the different years and think of something that was
Okay.
kind of a traumatic experience for me. And
Right.
you had to, like, he had me go up into this, like climb like these steps, like for the seven chakras,
Right.
or, seven dimensions, into this tree house is where I went. But you go up there and you sit with that version of yourself in your brain, you think about that and you nurture that part
Interesting.
of yourself. And you're like, you hug that part of yourself, you nurture, saying you're doing the best you can. It's not your fault, that like you got yelled at by your mom or whatever,
Right.
but you go through these different traumas, even write them down if you have to, and just like go to from your present version now, go kind of back in time to that version and just embrace them and hold them, love them, give them the love and the
Right.
support that they needed at that time period, which
I
they
love
weren't
that.
able to get.
Right. I
So
love that.
that's a key thing right there, I think, is just going
Absolutely.
through and yeah, figuring things out and, reconnecting with that aspect of yourself that was wounded.
Right. No, I like that approach. And I use something similar when I'm doing past life regressions, but I do like that giving that space to sit there with that version. I think that's a very key point, and I think it's powerful in our healing.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it worked for me as far as I'm concerned, and I mean, I'm still a
Right.
work in progress. We all
Yeah.
are,
Oh, we all are.
but
Yeah.
yeah. But, it's that when you stay stagnant, I always say baby steps are still steps forward, so
Absolutely.
and we're not always gonna be, we are like those times that we're feeling tired and that we, kinda wanna be secluded and all that stuff, and just have more me time. That's actually not a bad thing. If it gets too
Right.
long, then it's not good, but it's
Right.
healthy
You need
to
balance.
take your
Yeah.
time, yeah, to
Right.
process things
Absolutely.
and yeah. So, I
I
don't know.
have really enjoyed all I mean, and this I really feel like this could be multiple shows because it's so much information. There's so many different avenues.
Yeah.
And so, looking into the future, I think, people collect your questions. I'd love to have Cindy come back on and maybe look at more specific things. But if somebody's looking to book a session with you, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, is the best way through your webpage?
Yeah, yep, you can contact me through souladvancementshaman.com, or you can send me an email, souladvancementshaman at gmail.com are
Okay.
the two main things there. And I'm on Facebook. I have a few like Instagram and all that, but I'll be honest, Facebook is more my, my thing that I go to. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, you can just Google me and I'm there, so, and the information to contact me. Like I said, I am revamping a few things. I got to figure out, how I want to proceed with some things here, but I'm pretty much going to go more with like online sessions. So,
Right.
But if somebody's in the local area, I can travel, to or whatever,
I like
you
that.
know, reach out to me and we can
Yes,
talk and we'll
reach out.
figure something out.
And you said
But
Soul Advancement Shaman at
shaman,
gmail.com? Okay.
correct. Yep.
All right. I just want to make
And
sure I
and
have that right.
I I want to promote the book honestly because I I share so much information in there because I did not have a guide. I did
Right.
not have very many people to help influence me. So that's what this book is all about. It's about my crazy story. And I'm going to tell you, there's not a story out there like this with all the things that
I love it.
unfolded. But
Yeah.
I educate as I go along so people understand where I was going and how I shifted and
Right.
how I was able to tap into these skills. Because if you don't know what claircognizant is, if you don't know, what
Exactly.
the clairs are, if you don't know what a medium is, if you don't know,
Right.
what like the psyche is, and different things, like I explain all these different aspects because our mental health does dictate our reality and our energy field,
Yes, it does.
and it's all connected. So, and we are not taught that, and that's why
No, we're
I really
not.
want to educate people, and this book was a tool that I wish I had, and I've spent over a decade on it, working on
Yeah.
it
Well, and I'm
and
grateful that
to help
you
people.
were willing to put that into a book, to help and to educate and to let people know. And I truly appreciate you being here. I really hope people, if you have questions, reach out to Cindy. She's got a lot of good information, and I'm looking forward to checking out your book as I get into the cooler months now, and I have a little bit more downtime. So thank you so much for joining us today, Cindy.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity so much. It's been wonderful, and you're doing wonderful things too. So I applaud
Oh,
you
thank you.
because we're all here as light workers to help this planet, and we have to join forces and do what we can and hit those different vibrational levels and do what we can to move forward. So, like, I'm very passionate about that.
Yes.
So,
No, I am too. So I appreciate
yeah,
that message. Thank you.
yes, thank you so much.
Bye-bye. I really hope that everybody enjoyed our conversation today with Cindy. There's so much information, and we only have about an hour here. So please check out her book. The link is in the comments. Check out her webpage. If you're looking, to continue that education, maybe you're having some experiences or things that you're just kind of wondering, could this relate to you? Or is this part of me that needs healing? As always, feel free to check out my website at beyondsoulguidance.com. I try to keep up events. Don't really have a whole lot going on, right now, kind of easing back in from the summer break, but I look forward to connecting with you guys over the next few weeks. Stop in to see the guests that we have. If you have ideas that you would like to hear for topics or guests, please shoot me an email. I'm always looking for new ideas. Until then, be well, and I will talk to you all soon. Goodbye.